Hello, and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. We are attempting to awaken philosophy in our lives, for our soul, and maybe also in our culture, because philosophy is the most important thing you can do. In fact, you might even say we're doing it all the time anyway, only without an awareness of it, without an understanding of it. And so the way we're doing it is actually for our detriment. It's causing us harm. We are all of us philosophers. We are born to be philosophers because philosophy is using your mind to know and understand your own mind, the reality you're in, and yourself. Now, we're doing that anyway. Only without an awareness that we are doing it, and we are doing it towards that which is false. We are carrying within ourselves a false idea about ourself, reality, and mind. Mind you could put under the category of reality too. But we are carrying a false idea about ourself, our mind, and reality that we are solidifying in our experience. We are integrating into our being. Now, you might think, integrating into your being, self, mind, and reality, that sounds like personal development. That sounds like spiritual learning. That sounds like evolving as a consciousness. And if you said that, you would be right. But what happens if you are doing that very spiritual personal development quest towards that which is false? Wouldn't you be just putting up boundaries to what you would otherwise be doing in a genuine spiritual quest? The answer to that is yes, you would be. So, that is the human condition. We are all in this game. You could say we are all walking dialectics. Now, we say the word dialectic because that's the process through which we do those things. What things? Well, those two things. There are two of them. What things? Developing an understanding, a knowing, and integration of self, mind, and reality. That's one thing we could be doing. Another thing we could be doing is developing an understanding and a kind of understanding and a kind of knowing and an integration of what's false and harmful and blocking about self, reality, and mind. Those are the two things. Hello and welcome to chat. Good to see you. So the way through which, or the method, or the structure, or what we are seeing in this text, the paradigm, which is a fancy word for structure or model, that also exists in an eternal form. The paradigm through which we do either of those two things is the dialectic. That's what we're learning. But also, the dialectic is also the structure through which we can uncover the negative one, uncover what's the opposite of the logos. If the logos is what's true about self, reality, mind, that we are here to integrate, if the logos is what we are here to learn, then its opposite, the sick logos, the pathologos, is what we would be doing instead. Notice, this isn't an either or thing. Well, wait a minute. It's not a matter of do you want to do personal development of the logos or not? That's not the question. You are doing it anyway. That's what it means to be alive. That's what it means to have a mind. That's what it means to live. You are doing it anyway. The question is, do you want to do it on what's true, the logos, or if you don't pick that, you'll be doing it on what's false, the pathologos, and harming yourself. So that's the question. You're in the game anyway. Do you want to be doing it in a way that benefits you or in a way that harms you? Towards the logos or towards the pathologos? That's our question. Now, if we choose the good option, I hope you do, we would want to not only learn the logos, which is what we do on the channel when we read the Platonic texts, but you would also want to be going on a similar discovery in a similar way to the way in which we discover the logos about self, reality, and mind in philosophy by reading the text, which is a lot of fun. In a similar way, we discover what we are carrying that we do not suspect that's false. It's a discovery. Yes, the pathologos causes our problems, causes our suffering, causes us to be trapped in a loop of repeating our failures over and over again, what we call fate. But it can still be a fun activity to discover the cause of that. And it's a certain kind of fun because it's the most significant. You are going on a fun journey to heal yourself, to purify all of the things that are distracting you, that are blocking you, that are lessening your power. You're on a search for true freedom. Now you could say, well, hang on a second. All media and entertainment and movies and books seem to be a hero's journey towards either that freedom. They want a certain kind of freedom of some kind, represented in lots of different ways, in different metaphors. Freedom from oppression, freedom from, in Braveheart, freedom from the English, freedom from, I don't know, the police, the mafia. Or the other game, the hero is in a journey to level up, to increase his ability, usually through a discovery of something about their true nature. I was this all along, says Harry Potter. And now I have this new ability. I was a Jedi all along, says Luke Skywalker. Now I have this new ability. Or maybe both. Let's take Star Wars. Freedom from the evil Darth Vader's empire, as well as a learning to discover his true Jedi nature, his true Jedi self. So what? So these are archetypes that we have an intuition that we are aware of, and if you represent this in media, it will probably resonate. So I do encourage you to use what you learn in those two quests, discovering your true higher nature, remembering and discovering your true self. That's philosophy. Or gaining a freedom from what blocked or oppressed you. That's midwifery. So anything you learn on these two things that we do on the channel, put it into your art. Make some short stories, or some cartoons, or some anime, or some movies. And if you do, share them with us on the channel. You can join the Discord, and we have a section there for sharing our creations. So the way in which we do those things, and also the way in which we discover the pathologos, that's the dialectic. So that's what we're learning as we go, and we're practicing it. So as we read, we try to look for ways of applying the dialectic wherever we can. In the text, is Pierre Grimes, the author of this text, is he using the dialectic in how he writes, in how he structures his sentences, and how the book is structured, and how the paragraph is structured? That's the game. Look for the dialectic, put it wherever you can, see if you can see it. And if you are creating your own stuff, see if you can use it in your creation. Dialectic is the structure of the logos. Also the structure of the pathologos. Again, same structure, different terms. That's our principle of metaphor. Relations stay the same, terms vary. As above, so below is another expression. In other words, the principles that govern, create, sustain our reality applies top down or to any level. As above, so below. If we see some kinds of relationships in one level, we can wonder how would those same relationships or structure, how would they apply to a different level or a different set of terms? That's how we gain insight. And that's how we're reading as well. Everything we see in the Pathologos, we're saying, how does this also apply to philosophy? If Pathologos is non-being, it's not true, doesn't really exist, it affects us, oh boy does it affect us, then that's one level. What's true is a different level, philosophy. So everything we discover in midwifery, we can apply it to philosophy and wonder, oh, how can I keep the same relationships, the same structure, but change the terms to philosophy terms, which is pretty much taking away false and adding the word true. False being, true being. False idea of beauty, true beauty. Not allowed to ask questions, definitely asking questions. So there's a little bit of a trick, but we ask, how can we apply it to the other? Terms vary in different levels or different systems, relations stay the same. And that's how we've been reading. That's a dialectic. So dialectic and metaphor together, that's our game. Those are our tools. That's our sword and shield. Now on the channel, we're also wondering, oh, how does this also apply to music? Because if this is a paradigm, then it should apply to all intelligible structures. In other words, all systems in our reality that have terms that can be hierarchically ordered, and you can understand the relationships between them and how they come together as a whole in a system, you should be able to apply that. So in other words, if you're learning music, use metaphors, use the dialectic. Everything you learn about midwifery and philosophy, see if you can find an analogous or a metaphorical representation in music. We started that on the channel too. But whatever else are you learning math? Do the same thing. Are you learning something that has a understandable system? So that's what we've been doing, and let's keep that theme going as we jump into the text and continue to read. Welcome to the chat. Wow. Our friend in the chat has the Pocket Pierre. Now, Pocket Pierre is a kind of abridged version of this book that we're reading together. The Pocket Pierre. Check it out. I recommend it. It's really cool. It's really accessible. And it comes with a workbook. I think you can order them both together. They come in a pack sometimes. The Pocket Pierre and its workbook. And our friend got one for his birthday. Happy birthday. And do we have confetti? Confetti for your birthday. And now I'm up to the fifth hypothesis. Wow. The fifth hypothesis is the Parmenides. So as we've been talking about this dialectic, the structure that can be applied to all these different things we're learning, midwifery and philosophy are the two big ones. You could ask the question, well, how do you understand that structure itself? Like, what's the highest way you can understand that structure? That's the Parmenides. Because there are 8 sections to the dialectic, there are 8 hypotheses of Parmenides. Now there's actually 9 because there's the first, which stands above, but we put that aside for a while and we recognize, oh, the hypotheses of the Parmenides is the highest representation, or one of, because it's of the one self. The highest representation of the dialect, which would mean it's also probably the most challenging. Thankfully, we have a Balboa translation so we can actually read it for the first time in 2,000 years. Good for us. Which means we have what we need to master the highest work perhaps ever written, which is fantastic. Most challenging, but that's good, because if it's the most challenging, it's going to surface our pathologos blocks, which can give us the material we need to do midwifery. If we want freedom from our unsuspected false beliefs, our distractions and tangents, our negative states of mind and anger, if we want freedom from that, we have to have those terms to apply the dialectic to, which means you have to be seeking a meaningful goal. And what's the most meaningful goal? Well, up there in that top 10, or maybe top 5, is reading the Parmenides, reading his hypotheses. So it will surface, not only will you gain a understanding of that paradigm we call the dialectic, but you'll surface the blocks that you can use to apply midwifery to get that other thing that Harry Potter and Luke Skywalker wants: freedom. Freedom to be themselves most purely. So that's the hypotheses of Parmenides, which we will be getting back to in the channel soon. We've done the first hypothesis on the channel. The other 8 we're going to get back to maybe when we have a more experience and understanding of the dialectic. We'll get into the next 8 because we'll have an awareness of the structure that those 8 follow. So we'll have like a coat hanger to hang all of the information on as we go. We'll have an understanding of the bones that we're fleshing out. So I like to read in that way. So welcome to the channel and happy birthday. And I'm glad you got the Pocket Pierre, and I recommend it to anyone watching. I just took off my jacket really quick, magically. I do have a bit of a cold today, so I hope I don't sound too bad. Let's jump into where we are in the text. All right, keeping in mind those things we talked about: metaphor, terms vary, relations stay the same. Looking for the dialectic, applying what we see here to its opposite in philosophy, to gain insights into philosophy and to gain a better understanding and insights into what we're doing here. So last time we were looking at why playing out this role, playing out the transmitter of the pathologos, is so appealing to us. We want to play the knower really, really muchly. We look for times where we can share our beloved beliefs and concerns. We want to play so what would be the opposite of that? Well, what's the opposite of beliefs, or what's the higher version of beliefs? True understanding and knowledge. The things that we think beliefs are. We think beliefs are true. So, what would be, so let's use an example here. This is not a personal attack, but famously, there are some people who knock door to door with their opinions and beliefs in Western culture, and say, hey, let me tell you about my beliefs about Joseph Smith and his beliefs about Jesus. So we call them Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay, so those people normally, famously, no one cares about your beliefs. Why would they? If you want true beliefs, you go to college to learn understanding. Well, understanding of the physical world anyway. Those other beliefs, faith we call it, faith means beliefs that are disproven by evidence or can't be proven by evidence. So formally, they're called an absurd belief. If I said, hey, there's an invisible man on my shoulder right now, and they said, well, I don't think so. Why is that? Or just believe me, that's faith. So then we have to ask the question, well, how can we have learnt such beliefs that people are very, very much attached to? They think it's real. All of us. Now, we talk about Jehovah's Witnesses because it's easy to see in other people. But if we have integrity, we have to ask, well, I'm just a human being as well. So I'm likely doing something similar. What am I doing that's similar? I have beliefs that I love and think are real. And I also am actively looking for opportunities to share those personal beliefs and opinions and concerns with others as though I know. Just like this 17-year-old in a suit carrying a Bible is doing himself. So what? So it's an archetype. It's a paradigm that we are drawn to. Why? Well, let's play this game we're playing. Take out what's false and replace it with what's true. So what would be the opposite of beliefs? Understanding and knowledge. Actual true understanding, which means it has to be of the paradigm, not of its expressions. Right? When you learn how to fix a bike, you don't learn that bike, and that bike that happen to be at the bike shop. You don't learn the physical expressions. You learn the idea or the model, the blueprints, so that you can apply it to any bike. That's understanding. So understanding isn't about the physical world. It's about the paradigm, the model. You can then apply it to the physical world. Right, this is why we have the problems we have politically. In the discourse, the political discourse, what's true, what's not true? Should the right wingers be allowed to grift? Should the left wingers be allowed to not do anything and toe the corporate capitalist line for the billionaires? Why not? Who's to say? Just vote. And if these people have all the power, because one's the billionaires, one's the billionaire fascists, who's to say what's right and wrong? Exactly. You can point to things. So this is where there's the meme. Every political argument eventually gets into talking about Hitler. Why? Because Hitler is a physical example of something that we all intuitively accept as bad. So if you want to say this thing is bad, oh, it's bad for you to exploit people, then some capitalist fascist will say, oh no, it's profits. They're a job creator. It's good that shareholders get money. Because don't you have superannuation? Aren't you a shareholder? So profits are good. It builds innovation. Okay, now all of those things are lies because profit is a zero-sum game. If everyone was born on an island with 10 coconuts, profit means taking the coconuts from those others into one person with 100 coconuts and everyone else with no coconuts. That's what profit means. Thumbs down for profit. It's marketed as a good thing with lies like creates jobs. Hang on a second. Now those 9 people on that 10-person island have to be a slave for that one person with the coconuts? Why is that a good thing? Why is being a slave or having a job a good thing? It isn't. It's pretended to be. But the shareholders. Well, hang on a second. Those 9 people aren't shareholders. Because profit is a zero-sum game. Every dollar you earn, if your boss is earning $10, you're literally making yourself poorer. This is a fun, I repeat this idea a few times on the channel because it's one that I haven't seen entered the public discourse yet, but I think it's very, very important. It's fundamental. If your boss earns $10 while you earn $5, you are working to make yourself poorer. Profits means making everyone poorer because you can only be rich relative to everyone else being poor. And what's tragically ironic or comedic is all of the principles the billionaires use to justify taking all of the coconuts for themselves and being able to use other people as slaves are the principles that would happen if we didn't have profits and everyone was supported. Money was used the way it should be, the way water is. Everyone should drink water, not just the billionaires. Well, think of water's a good example. The billionaires should have all the water. Why? Well, because they might choose to share water with other people. And isn't that a good idea? Because one day there'll be a billionaire who wants to share all the water. Then everyone will have water. Isn't that the utopia you want? Therefore, we should have profits. Moving all the water to the billionaire. A billionaire setting up a dam in the stream so he has all the water. Hang on a second. You're justifying doing the thing that takes away from other people. And the principle, the fantasy you're selling to justify is that maybe one day he will share it. In other words, maybe one day the thing that he actively destroyed with profits could happen. So there's 2 problems with that. Well, why not just do the good thing at the beginning? Why hope that one day a billionaire will share his wealth through job creation and innovation or whatever? Why not just get rid of profit so we're all sharing the wealth the way that we should? Why wait for the imagined future? And the second thing is that imagined future cannot happen. It's impossible. If you have half a dozen or you have a few dozen billionaire shareholders, you need billions of starving people. You can't have both. There are only a certain amount of water, a certain amount of coconuts, a certain amount of money to go around. In other words, profit means exploiting and making people poorer. That's what profit means. It's a bad thing. It's marketed as a good thing. And all of the things, the fantasies used to market it as a good thing are the things that would happen if we don't have profits, number 1, and number 2, can't happen with profits. Because money is relative. That's the idea we need to get into our heads as a species. It's relative. It's not like we all have 10 coconuts on an island and then there's this one guy who's making more and more coconuts to go around. That's not how it works. Think about it. Coconuts are a resource, but coconuts in this example, first of all, you can't just invent coconuts out of thin air. There are only a limited amount of resources to go around. And secondly, coconuts are used as a medium of exchange in this example. So if everyone had 10 coconuts and all of a sudden this billionaire somehow used his genius to invent 90 more coconuts, all of a sudden, those other coconuts that everyone else has is worth less. So if there was 100 coconuts in circulation, now there are 1,000 because this billionaire somehow used his genius profit mind to create more, which is nonsense, but that's the lie that they sell. Then what costed one coconut before, because there's still only the same amount of resources on the island, now costs 10 coconuts. All of the coconuts they have. Meaning they're all poor. They have to choose. Do I want a house or do I want food? All right, so harping on about that only until I hear this idea that money is relative. Profits means exploitation. You can't have happy people and billionaires. Every dollar you earn, if your boss is earning 10, you're making yourself poorer even by working harder. Until I hear those ideas in culture, I'm going to repeat them. It's very important. Use water as an example. Stopping the water from flowing. All right, a bit of a tangent, but an important one. Let's see if that helps. So we see a strange attraction that we have to acting like a knower. So replace beliefs and opinions with truth and understanding. What do we have? Well, we have the role of the guru, don't we? Formally, a guru is someone who, as an archetype anyway, has an understanding of the paradigm. Oh, let's wrap up the tangent, by the way. All of this was about the discourse in our society right now, time of the recording, that doesn't get anywhere because the only things we can point to are physical examples, which is why we often talk about Hitler, because it's a physical example of something that's supposedly a paradigm. The reason why it's so attractive is if you want to say something is bad, hey, profits, they're bad, right? No, they're not, because all of these lies that we just went through. So there's no bad. If there's no bad, you can't stop tyranny. Capitalism, fascism, exploitation, poverty, all the things we mentioned. You need to have an idea of bad. Otherwise, these grifters, politicians and fascists, you say, oh, there's no such thing as bad. Maybe profits will one day end up good, magically. The rich get richer and somehow everyone is happy. No, that's bad. Isn't bad just a matter of your opinion? Okay, so what do you have to do? Point to something that is objectively bad. Hitler. Even now, that's falling apart because there are a lot of modern Nazis coming out of the woodwork. But the idea of bringing up Hitler is pointing to something that is objectively bad. Why do we care? Because we need objective standards to have conversations about truth. Why is it a problem? Well, it's still a physical example. It's still an example of something that is true. In other words, the true things that we're looking for an objective standard or a principle to have a conversation about how do we live in a good way, individually and collectively. You can't point to physical examples because they are examples. Examples of what? Examples of the principle, of the thing that is objectively true. What does that mean? If we keep looking through our senses, you won't find truth. Because our senses look at physical examples or adjectives. A beautiful thing, a true thing, a bad Hitler. Notice the word a beautiful thing, a true thing, a bad thing. We want the. We need to raise our language and our thinking to the level of the in order to have rational, mature, political discourse, social discourse, and discourse within ourselves. We need standards. Likewise, when we are looking at the introduction of the pathologos, we look at it and we apply standards. Every family will be different examples, but as a principle, presenting yourself as knowing when you're not, that is not true. By definition, as a principle, we have to look to principles. By the way, the understanding of those principles, that's philosophy. So in other words, we are using philosophical ideas in midwifery. True philosophy, not the way it's taught. Again, how is philosophy taught? That other way, looking at physical things, opinions. So the way philosophy is taught is the opposite of philosophy. Let's look at Kant's opinions or Hegel's opinions. And who's to say what's right or wrong? Your examiner, your lecturer, he's the one who marks your exam. And isn't that a wild way of teaching students and children what's true? Whatever the authority says, because he's the one who gives you your degree. Okay, so what is true? Principles. Where do they exist? The realm of being. Not physically, the non-physical dimension of reality we call being. Why do we care? Well, here we have a desire to be there and act from there. That's the motivating desire we all have. And that's what we've been reading here. Why? Because the opposite of beliefs and opinions is understanding and knowledge. The opposite of beliefs would be understanding. The opposite of imitation would be true knowing. So think of the Jehovah's Witness again, not personal. If you happen to be a Jehovah's Witness, we're not talking about you personally, we're just using it as an example. We could use anything as an example because all human beings are in this situation. You have your opinions that you pretend are true, but they're just opinions. And we want to understand where you got those. Why are you not going door to door talking about Allah or talking about, I don't know, anyone else? Okay, you got them from your family, their opinions. Okay, and the way in which they convey their opinions are as if it's true or integrated into their way of being. They have their lovely suit and they, often talk down to people because what else would make their opinions true? Knocking on your door saying, hey, I have these opinions. You want to hear them? Everyone will be like, no, what? Why? Why would I care about opinions? I want understanding and truth, and maybe someone who's done something with their understanding as well. Put it into experience so I can learn and develop myself. But opinions, aren't they the things that get in the way? Notice, it's a crappy sales pitch. So there has to be a way of presenting their opinions as though they are true. That's the idea of knowing, or in this example, imitation. So whoever in their family or culture, in their little group, the little Jehovah's Witness group, because it's not understanding. So what gave the people who were spreading the beliefs the aura of knowingness? Maybe they wore a nice clean suit and a lovely tie. And maybe they talked down to people. You don't know this yet, but I know. You dumb kids. So the 17-year-old knocking door to door, saying, here are my opinions. He has to deliver it with an aura, that same aura of knowingness as though his opinions are true, but it's imitation. So beliefs and imitation, what's its equivalent in philosophy? Understanding and knowledge. What makes the difference? Well, understanding isn't about the physical world, whereas opinions are. I have an opinion about the black people. I have an opinion about Jesus. I have an opinion about how we should live or how we should dress or what women should do in society. These are all things about, and where did you get them? Oh, this physical person came and told me. And then he told this guy. And then that was the family I was born into. Okay? And so those physical people, we also imitate. So opinions are about the physical world. The aura of knowingness is, again, an imitation of an example, an imitation of a person. The pastor in your community. The different communities, they have different ideas of what it means to be knowing. Germans, very stoic, very stern, maybe. Russians, very silent, or Italians, very loud and boisterous. These are all marks of what it means to be knowing, that are simply imitations. So in philosophy, we realize that understanding is not opinion, and that it's not about the physical world, but the metaphysical world, the world of being that always exists, that have the nouns that the physical world have as examples, adjectives. So we see adjectives: beauty, a beautiful person, a beautiful puppy. The noun, beauty itself, is in the realm of being. Formally, that's what philosophy is about. Dianoia, understanding the different aspects of the realm of being, where the nouns live, where the things live. Understanding is about that. That's where we get our principles from, that always apply. You don't have to search for physical examples of what is bad, Hitler, or what must be true. The founding fathers, right? Is that a physical example of what makes something true? No, of course not. You could very easily pick holes in their thinking. What makes something true is how much they share in the idea of truth itself from being. So, if that's what understanding is, what's the opposite of imitation? Knowing it. Having that integrated into your being. That's the guru. Now you might say, well, a lot of Eastern spiritual traditions, or not just Eastern, but a lot of different spiritual traditions, just have the knowingness. They have these people who have experienced the realm of being, maybe often in their meditation, and therefore have a familiarity with it, but they might lack the understanding. And if you said that, you would probably be right. And don't believe me? Head down to your local ashram or wherever you have people who are playing this role, and see if you can engage in dialectic or understanding with them, and see how far you get. In other words, you need both, which is what we have been reading here. Philosophy can therefore be a new spiritual tradition, a new spiritual paradigm that can rival all the other ones we see around us, simply because it has both of those things. It has the experience and integration in knowingness, as well as the understanding. You need both. Also, you need philosophical midwifery, because even with those two things, you can still have the influence of those shadows. Those guys over here, the opinions and the imitation. So lots of confetti. A true spiritual tradition will have not just experience, but understanding of the realm of being. And not just that, but philosophic, which is formally philosophy, Platonic philosophy, true philosophy, as well as the removal of the imitation in our opinions that block us. Otherwise, you'll have the cliche pervy sage or alcoholic sage, all these gurus who have the problems that they had because they maybe have an experience, some even have a little bit of understanding, but they haven't done midwifery. So this is a true spiritual or philosophical tradition that we are here to reawaken. So here we have the convincer has been idealized into the object of imitation. There we have our shadow of knowingness. Knowingness in philosophy, as above, so below, or terms vary, relations stay the same. What's the imitation midwifery? The imitation of the convincer. Okay, and what's true understanding? The belief. So we have the act of convincing and the belief. Those are our two things that we cling to. And our whole lives are playing out the implication of that. And seeking opportunities to actually be the guru. What does that mean? That means our souls actually seek enlightenment. We are here to become gurus. To remove the imitation and the beliefs, to gain understanding and knowingness, and to function with it to benefit ourselves and others. That's our job. And we are all doing it anyway. You're in this game. Whether you like it or not, you're here. So the question that we have is, well, how about we play the game properly? Because if you don't, you will be using your innate motivation, your nature that seeks to be a guru, to do the very thing that harms yourself and harms the world. So it's not a matter of do you want to do it or not. It's a matter of do you want to do good, or if you don't, you'll be doing bad. Which goes back to our capitalism thing. Do you want to be doing sharing the coconut so everyone has the coconut so we can meet our needs without poverty and exploitation and starvation and slavery? Or just ignore it? Well, if you're ignoring it, you're allowing the bad to happen anyway. So we need to be realizing, we need to move to paradigms, understand our society better, properly, truthfully, and then apply the paradigm to what would actually be a good way of meeting our human needs without needing to work in a rational, renewable way so that we meet all our needs so we can do what we need to be doing, which is this. Now, is that a principle? Is that a truth that will apply to any species on any planet? That whatever planet you're at, you should prevent a small group of people from hoarding all of the wealth, enslaving everyone else, destroying the planet, exploiting the resources, allowing themselves to play out their pathologos with impunity because they have all the money? Should you allow that on any planet, in any part of history, even 1,000,000 years in the future? Or is it a principle that wherever you find yourself, you should be doing the exact opposite, making sure that doesn't happen, midwifery, and using whatever resources you have to renewably and sustainably, with the complete sharing of all technology, no hoarding of even technology, so that we can renewably and sustainably, efficiently and rationally distribute the resources so that all needs are met with minimum need for effort or work, so that we can, wherever we find ourselves, do our quest to free ourselves from our problems and what's false, and to rediscover our true nature through true understanding and knowledge, and functioning with it as the true guru. In other words, remove the false guru, the pathologos, and become true gurus. Is that a principle? In other words, am I pointing to just a physical example of that? No, I haven't seen one ever. Even in the history books, I haven't seen a world like this. So it's not in the physical world I'm getting this from. It's a principle that should be a noun that applies anywhere. That's the difference. And that's called learning. Right. So, we recognize when someone makes that shift into the false guru, they shift into playing an authority role. It's funny to see with kids. Kids are playing, then all of a sudden they'll start imitating their parents, and they'll start berating a doll or talking down to an adult, and it's funny because we can see it. But then as they grow up, suddenly we pretend that it's real. all these human beings running around as if they know, and we give them titles like politicians or economists or judges and lawyers and things, even though they're just doing the same thing they did as kids that were funny when we could see it. Until, of course, we do midwifery and philosophy. Okay, even though people don't agree with our dumb opinions, we still seek, and people might disagree with us, and usually they only care when it challenges their opinions. And that, in other words, they only care to fight us. But still, we still, with all this uncertainty and difficulty, and they won't respect our opinions, we still want to play the knower. We feel uplifted and we feel intense, and this is what life's all about. All of these feelings that should be motivating us to true wisdom or true integration of understanding and functioning with it, true justice, we are misdirecting. We are like that dam. The billionaires put a dam in the water to siphon it all off. So they're using all this water that we could all be drinking. We are all, what's the word for starving, but with water? Starving of thirst. We're all thirsty. We're all dehydrated. Surely there's a word for that. I don't know what it is. But we're all starving of water. Because the water that could be used very well is being siphoned off, so too our desire to be knowing, to develop, to function with our knowingness as a guru has been usurped, siphoned off, dammed off to this game. So what's even some more surprising is we guard jealousy our dumb opinions of how we are to be and how we are to appear, right? In the suit, talking down to people, just like the preacher at the Jehovah's Witness Sunday school, or whatever it is. So, what's the solution? Well, who is the one captive audience who gives a crap about your dumb opinions? Your kids. So, this is where we pass it on. Our usurped energy towards our actual development, to play this imitation role to our kids. So we looked at the and by the way, realizing that it's all a bullshit act of ignorance can be a severe crisis to an immature child, so we kind of believe it. Also, just like in philosophy, in the spiritual, we read and we develop questions and we organize it with metaphor and dialectic so that we suddenly come to an insight for ourselves about the truth of self and reality, because it's a spiritual thing. It's an insight. Hopefully it elevates your frequency or your consciousness or your state of being. In a similar way, but in the negative, they don't actually tell you the beliefs. They do all this bullcrap, put on this big show so that you come to the conclusion about self and reality. The content is in part verbal, but it's implicit. So again, the imitation of insight, which is why we don't even realize we're carrying it. It was not put into words. Of course, the opposite would be, once you've had an insight, talk about it. You've had a brilliant light experience of reality, or you've gone beyond that, had the clear experience of freedom. Talk about it, understand it, share it with your friends, put words on it. Okay, beauty and truth in the physical world, not always together. In reality, they are both aspects of being, so we don't realize that as babies. Oh, beautiful. Look how beautiful they look. It must be true, right? Marketing plays on that as well. And here is the insight. It suddenly makes sense of the way of our society, the way that our family has been, the way we talk to each other. The belief becomes a way of understanding about what's been happening around us. It kind of explanation for all of the problems and puzzles. Just like when we read, we develop puzzles and problems and questions. Where is the text not making sense? Where is Socrates not going further? Where is he leaving us something else? So we get super puzzled so that we can gain an insight of true understanding that makes sense of all the puzzles. This is the negative version. Because they're not real puzzles. Well, it's not the real solution. The real solution is the pathologos. All of whatever family you're in, it's not personal. And just think about it. Look at all the different families in different parts of the world. If you're taking it personally, just look at anyone else. Just go across the water to a different country, or go back in time 500 years. It's very easy to see how ignorant those families are. So if your pathologos is taking it personally in order to block you from understanding, just go back 500 years. Just go 5,000 miles in that direction. Pick a family over there. So you can see how ignorant they are. And the way that they relate to each other in that way, maybe dad yells at mum. Maybe they punish the kids all the time. Maybe they berate the daughter more than the sons. The way of making sense of it isn't a true belief, isn't a pathologos belief that you think is true. It's the pathologos. In other words, they are in their pathologos. That's the true solution to the problem. But that would be devastating to the child, so we take the blame. Oh, that must be real. And I must be dumb for not having realized it. I would never treat my sister that way. I would never yell at mum like dad does. There must be something wrong with me. We take the blame. But it's a solution to make sense of all those puzzles. The wrong solution, but there's the rub. Which means if we do use the dialectic to go back to the origin scene and bring to light all those puzzles, as a mature adult, we can find the actual solution. So, what's the expression? Swings and roundabouts. Silver lining. There is an intelligibility behind the irrationality. There is a rationality behind the irrationality. You can go back and solve the puzzles properly, freeing yourself from the pathologos, the false solution that makes sense of the way things are. Okay? We gain a glimpse into why these people who have been significant feel the way they do, say what they do, are the way they are. An intuitive grasp about how the milieu means the vibe around you, the society around you, the place around you, how that fits in with the pathologos. You solve the puzzle incorrectly in a way that's going to cause all your problems. Your whole life's going to be dedicated towards it. You are going to be a walking dialectic of this pathologos, whether you like it or not, until you pick up this game and free yourself from what's dangerous and false. That's where it comes from. Let's keep reading. Each part of the milieu, the household, all the business happening around you, each part of the milieu fits properly. Each part plays out its measured role, and each part comes together into a unity. So again, keep your mind open to what is its analogy in philosophy. All the puzzles we have in the text come together into a unity. What's going on? Uh-oh. What? There we go. The text flew off the page. Sometimes the text will come to life like that. Okay, just bring up my highlighter. Okay, highlighter is working. Comes together into a unity, giving the whole a necessary being. Now, if we are aware that we are doing a dialectic, we can gain an insight into the dialectic. When we do a dialectic on whatever we want to actually know, like what is beauty, We take all the parts from the text, we arrange it within the dialectic, we see how the parts come together as a whole, but also it has to be necessary. It's necessary that it happen this way. Again, this is the paradigm for how we should be talking in our political discourse or social discourse or spiritual discourse, anything that's meaningful. Why? Because it has to be shown that whatever it is that you're saying is necessary. It's necessary that beauty is an aspect of being that's eternal in the realm of being. By seeing how the parts come together into a unity to make a whole. So we're seeing the conclusion of the dialectic, the purpose of the dialectic, and talking about how we can use it to have actual conversations that we don't have in our society yet. Like our politicians that don't have to show how it's necessary that his opinion has to be. No, they just say it. So coming together into a unity, giving a whole, showing it's necessary, and it's a necessary being, again, the realm of being, makes it intelligible. This is our big word, intelligible. This is a big one for us. A weird word. Fancy word. We say it means understandable and knowable. But here we see more about what that means. To see how the parts come together into a unity, make a whole, that's necessary, and in being, all of these things is to do with the word intelligible. So one of the questions we're carrying is, what the heck does the word intelligible mean? So you've got some more terms that you can put into a dialectic until they come into a unity and a whole, and maybe trigger an experience of being because you see how that whole is necessary. In other words, you can do a dialectic on intelligible itself. And why not? Especially if the dialectic on what's true can elevate you into different levels of reality. Because what you have been focusing on, meditating on, doing the dialectic on is being. Because you've been doing it on a quality of being. Anyway, let's keep going. We accept this is the way things are. And this is the way things have to be. Big one. Accept the way things are. And the way things have to be. So we will go to war for it. Whether we're beating up the little kid down the street who disagrees with something we say, or has insulted our ma and pa, said a yo mama joke. Yo mama is so fat. Oh, I'm going to go to war because it has to be that way. She's a saint. She does know. And politically, same. We go to war because this is the way things are. We shall not challenge our way of being. Whatever it is. Right? This is where it comes from. And of course we should. Because we should all be learning and growing. That's what we're here for, evolution. Towards what? A standard that lives where? In being. That can be understood as what? A paradigm or a principle. That can be known because it's what? Intelligible, which means everyone can come together into a unity. Humanity can be a whole. That whole is necessary and a way of being that's necessary for humanity. Why? Because that whole that we are coming together into a unity about collectively as a species is intelligible. See? See how great midwifery and philosophy is? Not only are we able to understand the cause of our problems, going to war because of the way things are and have to be, even though it's nonsense to anyone on the outside, we're making rational the irrationality of humanity, but we're also learning what the paradigm would be. Because the cause of our problem is simply a shadow of the truth. So we can learn about this to solve problems, midwifery, but also at the same time we can learn about, once we've gotten rid of this blind loyalty to the way things are and have to be because of the nature of the path of logos, what can we do instead? This. and we get both at the same time. Isn't that neat? You're getting 2 for 1 for no extra price. Isn't that neat? So, obviously, we're learning about the cause of our problems. And what's the thing we should be doing once we've freed ourselves? Right? The 2 things a hero has: free himself from the Empire, says Luke Skywalker. But also, what should he be doing instead? He has to go on a journey to understand how to become a true Jedi, to discover his true nature. So, once we've freed ourselves from our problems as a species, okay, I'm talking about it as a species, but really it's our soul. It's just easier to blow it up to the societal level to see it, but it's also the soul. Okay, but let's keep on the society thing. Well, once we've freed ourselves from the problems, what do? Actually come together. Why? Because our problems are the same structure, only the wrong terms. Actually come together as a unity, coming to an actual whole of your soul or humanity. Why? Because it's a way of being that's necessary. Why? How many different ways can you unify humanity? Just one. The true one. Anything no less than true isn't a complete unity, isn't necessary. So our question is, what's the one true thing that can unify all humanity? Truth. What's true? Well, a way in which we can all come together into a unity through what? Understanding and knowing. The very thing opinion and imitation is a shadow of. And how can we all come together as a unity? Because we can all see it and understand it, because it's intelligibility itself. So, hooray. So if you want to make a political party, there's your platform. I will use this is the Logos Party, using our understanding of the paradigm to understand the cause of our problem so we can address it fairly, rationally, maturely, and also apply those very principles that created and sustained our problems to what it actually should have been applied to. We're not bad people in nature, we just had bad terms, so we replace it with the good terms. What's the good terms? Well, the other second part of my political platform says, you who use this in your political career or whatever, to bring together humanity into an actual whole, into a unity, based on actual intelligibility that no one is excluded from. Because intelligibility is understanding and knowing and good and justice, all of the things that are necessary for being. Become a rational and intelligible species that also has what it needs to understand the cause of and remove problems. Fairly, rationally, free, no exploitation. That's my political platform. Vote for me. And I will vote for you if you do that. And we come to accept that this is what our authorities are going to use to justify their words and deeds. Whoa. Authorities are going to use this to justify their words and deeds. Interesting. So there's our stand-in. What makes them knowing? Or what's the guru? Actually unifying a soul of another person through understanding. They can understand it for themselves. They can see it themselves. They can gain the benefit in their own experience. These are all markers of truth. Like if you actually, go take your bike to the bike store, what makes you think your bike's been fixed? He can actually explain what was wrong with your bike. Oh, this was the chain, it was off, I've put it on. Understanding, you can see it. And also you can experience it. You can get on your bike and ride out of the shop. All of these things are lacking in the path of logos. It's a certain way of being that justifies it. This is what they're going to use to justify their words and deeds. Just like politically. What makes Trump appeal to the people who like Trump? His way of being. Nothing he says is true or good or fair or just at all. Same with Putin. Certain way of being that vicious and uses to justify his words and deeds. That appeals to the German pathologos, cultural pathologos. Same thing with Korea or wherever you see these sorts of people. So what are we doing? Understanding the cause of why authorities use a certain way of being to justify their words and deeds when they can't. In true philosophy, non-philosophers. We can't have non-philosophers in power anymore. It's not going to work. I mean, it's going to just cause destruction and harm. There is a pain in this recognition because we know that there is something wrong. So there's a pain. Here's our pain. This is key. There has to be something telling us something's wrong. Just like when you have a splinter, you have pain. It's important you have pain to tell you there's something wrong. There's a pain. The pain sucks, but necessary. Pain and the recognition, because we know there is something wrong. But we accept it the way things are. This is the way it is, and it sucks and we're sad. This pain becomes the root of cause of our anger. This is key. We are all angry. Why? Projecting it on other people is not the answer. But what these authorities and fascists and right-wingers and stuff prey on. The cause of our anger is a pain at the recognition there's something wrong about this way of being and the pathologos belief that makes sense of it. It may be that it is just the way things are, but it is not justice. Okay, again, it's not justice. Our soul recognizes and seeks justice. There is something in your soul that does not tolerate injustice. That's the pain and anger, or the pain which causes the anger. Is an imitation of justice, which tells us something about our souls. Why do we care about justice? Why, even as babies, can we intuitively recognize an absence of justice or injustice? Thus, the pathologos is a key piece to a puzzle that brings a certain order. Again, what is intelligibility? An ordered system. Like music, we can apply the dialectic to music and the logos to music, as well as midwifery and philosophy. An order that goes on around us that we call the milieu. The pathologos is a piece to a puzzle that brings order to a milieu. That's a great definition. The pathologos is the missing piece, the keystone. And with it, all fits together into a unity. Again, apply this to philosophy. Do it yourself. What would that mean about how we should be reading philosophy? Have fun. Clearly, everything comes together and has the image of image. Everything comes together. This is the way things are. And this brings with it a sense of justification to the pathologos. So this is the way things are. Notice, how do people who socially or politically or just in the world justify their own ignorant opinions? They will say, oh, that's just the way things are. Why do we have capitalism? That's just the way things are. Why is there wealth inequality? That's just the way things are. Why are we not just sharing all the technology to meet human needs efficiently so we don't have to work? Just the way things are. Or that's just common sense. Common to you. Okay, it justifies the pathologos. There can be no pathologos without this element, because the justification can only be believed when it seems just. Let's give it a different color. This is huge. So what does that mean about what we're actually seeking as human beings in philosophy? If what seems just is the imitation, are we seeking justice? Is that our motivation as human beings? It seems just to the believer to believe it. The moment it is perceived as no longer just, it is dissolved. This is also key. If the pathologos is the cause of all of our problems, what do we want to do as human beings? Do we want to become free? We have to. The moment that it's perceived as no longer just, it is dissolved, then that's our goal. Which means what? In our understanding of the pathologos, we don't just have to understand its structure and its cause and how it's maintained. We have to use a word that we're learning in our philosophy reading, justice, which is one of the virtues and one of the aspects of being. Use our learning of that as much as we learn about it here, and the better we're doing philosophy, the more we can see it's not just, because the more we have an idea of what justice is. The better you understand what a push bike is, when someone shows you a moped, the more you understand a bike, the better you can say, oh, that's not a bike. But if you're a bit confused or you haven't really understood what a bike is, someone can show you a moped. You'd be like, oh yeah, maybe that is a bike, a push bike. Silly example, silly analogy, but you get the idea. We have to be doing philosophy together because we're after justice. The better we can judge justice, the easier it's going to be to free us from the cause of our problems. But as long as it remains unchallenged, we have to challenge it. So speak up, talk about it, have friends, talk about it over coffee, reflect on your dreams. You don't have to be right, just speak. You're alive. In fact, I think there's a quote at the end of this very book. Maybe it's at the start. That's brilliant. No, it's one of the other books. Speaking of other books you can buy, like the Pocket Pierre. Oh, it's not on my desk. I thought this was it, but it's not. Jesus and Socrates, a dialogue in heaven. But is it all relative is a great one. There's a quote in there. You are here to give voice. The universe is waiting for you to put words on yourself, in your voice. So speak up, speak. We are learning how to speak in the best way. So challenge it. If it remains unchallenged, it seems formidable and great. Again, seemingly. Through it, roles are assigned. Roles are assigned. Duties are established. You are lesser, I am better, I get to be a billionaire, and all that sort of stuff. Status is gained. Yes. Cutthroat, work your way to the top. Be like a Putin, be like an Elon Musk. And confirmed on others, right? Toe the line. Donald Trump will give you, I don't know, whatever. I know some people don't like it when I mention that guy because he's so prevalent in cultural media at the moment. It is a source of authority. This is what makes something true. How much you can be like Papa and Mama when they do this. And it's defended. I'll go to war for it because it is present. And anyone who says my dad isn't the best or my mum isn't a saint, I will beat them up on the playground because it is presented as if it possessed. So it's presented. It's a big show of nonsense, as if it possessed or exhibited greatness. Again, what does that say about what we seek in philosophy? Now, is it a presentation in philosophy, or do we actually seek to possess greatness? What is greatness? Does it have to be in being? Well, it has to be if it's a noun, a principle that we can all seek as philosophers. Do we not just want to possess it, but actually work with it, exhibit it, function with it, use it, be a guru, address the problems, put voice, put words on our being, so possess it and exhibit it? So are we gaining also at the same time puzzle pieces for philosophy? Yes. At the same time, understanding why the pathologos has its power. It's an imitation of what's true. So we're learning about what's true. We're learning about the cause of our problems, so we can free ourselves from it, and at the same time gain a bonus benefit by learning about philosophy. So it's defended because it's presented as possessing or exhibiting greatness. The pathologos continues to exist only as long, this is a key one, let's give it a different color. The pathologos continues to exist only as long as the image is taken to be the reality, and as long as the reality must be judged as being just. Wow.
Wow. He didn't know it's solid. He didn't know it's solid. He didn't know it's solipsism. He didn't know it's solipsism. He didn't know it's solipsism.
I don't want to eat a monkey.
All of the sound drops for that, because that is a big sentence. Your problem. Humanity's problem, but your problem. Your problem. You're tied to your illnesses, your struggles, your suffering. Only will it continue to exist as long as two things. You think it's reality. Now you might not even know you're carrying it. It's unsuspected because words weren't put on it back then. So long as you unsuspectedly take it as reality and judge it as just. You are a judge. Everyone who says, don't judge, it's wrong to judge people. Bollocks. Judging is what you do every moment. You judge how fast the cars are moving when you cross the street. You judge everything. You judge what you should have for breakfast. You judge whether the moldy bread should be eaten. Judging is thinking. We are learning how to think properly. Anyone who says don't judge is saying don't think. And because they're trying to scam you. They're trying to exploit you by preventing you from judging them, which is probably an imitation of this from their parents. Connors conning connors. Or connors being conned and conning others. All right, so we have to judge. What is our standard? Reality and justice. Two things that are the essence of what we study in philosophy. So hopefully we're going to be learning more about justice and learning more about reality as we learn this. But also, again, it's a two-part game. Jump in with our reading in Plato to actually understand the nature of justice. That's what we've been doing in the Republic and our other texts, and judge what our reality is. Again, Platonic dialogues give us that. So we have more of a grasp of what we need to free ourselves from our problems, become free, become happy, become more powerful, become more ourselves. What is it? We have to challenge what's false with words. Join the community, join the Discord, a link below. Friends who are in the game too. And we have to judge our belief against reality. Is this actually reality? Is the milieu reality? Is the way my house is reality? Remember when you were a little kid and you went to your friends for a sleepover and you suddenly got an idea of a different house, different smells, people relating to each other differently, mum and dad, different relationships. And maybe it was a shock. I didn't even realize there were these kind of other universes out there. And they were just up the street. We took our milieu as reality and all the roles and all the false beliefs as reality. It isn't. We have to surface what we're carrying. That is our burden. That is our cause of our problems. Judge it against reality, and specifically also judge it against justice. Is it just? Big sentence for us. Okay? Good note to end on. Think about that. Justice and reality. And how it all came together as a keystone to make sense of a world we took as reality because we didn't know any better. But now we do. So now we have the opportunity to become free. Exciting stuff. I hope to see you next time. Thank you for joining me. Like, subscribe, and all that. Twitch, you can join if you want to join the chat. YouTube, I think you can join the chat on YouTube too. Join the Discord if you want to meet people in the community. Links below to the text. Have fun. No link to this text. It's not my book. I can't do that. But you can buy the book, and you can buy the Pocket Pierre version of this as well, which has a workbook. Lots of fun. I hope you had fun today. I hope there's something that has sparked your curiosity and wonder. Hope you're excited about the possibility of being free from the things that you didn't even know that you were suffering from, and free of suffering itself. Wow, isn't that exciting?
Wow.
And I hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.